So yeah, next up we've got the return of the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. This was the Amazon Prime series about the 1950s housewife who becomes a stand-up comedian. Stars Rachel Brosnahan, Alex Borstein, and Tony Shalhoub, all of whom were nominated for Emmys. It won 5 Emmys. It's created by Amy Sherman Palladino, best known for Gilmore Girls. I really loved it the first time round. Gave it a glowing review. Watched it all in about a week. I've watched the entire second season. Luke is on episode
7.
It's an interesting one because the first season had a sort of flow to it in that she was leading towards her big gig. It was her discovering her talent for stand-up comedy whilst trying to keep it a secret. Her marriage also broke down. That's how the sort of impetus for the first stand-up set that she did. She's got 2 children as well, and her parents are quite sort of strict Jewish parents. This season, certainly the first half of it, which I watched because we got a preview copy of it, is a bit sort of lackadaisical and a bit anecdotal, really. I was going to use the word episodic, but it's episodes. Parents go to Paris for a couple of episodes. Mrs. Maisel's there. Midge is there for an episode. Later on, you see them on their summer holidays at the Catskills. It's only towards the latter half of the season, and you're just getting into it now, where you see her her comedy career take off again. You see the focus on that in the second half of the season. She goes on tour. She's part of a telethon.
My issue with it is it happens with a lot of streaming shows, and I feel like because they get given a lot of money, they kind of lose perspective a bit. And I feel like the only reason they went to Paris in that first episode and the second...
Did they actually go to Paris, though, or was it just...
Yes, I read up on it, they did. And my sense when I was watching it was they just went to Paris because they could go to Paris and because it looks incredibly good in HD, and it didn't feel right of the series.
I felt it worked in terms of the character of the mother who was trying to sort of re-explore herself. It does sort of play into the arc of Abe, Tony Shalhoub's character, the father, throughout the rest of the season. He has an interesting arc throughout the season, and it does start with the sort of the Paris episodes and things like that.
On the whole, though, when it works brilliantly. It's just that they've taken a more relaxed approach to this.
I agree. Certainly in the first half of the season. I think when you watch, the other thing is that they know they've got 2 seasons, 2 and 3, and I think they knew which points they wanted to hit. So at the end of episode 5, we get a reveal, don't we, that sort of changes the course of the rest of the season.
That was all brilliant.
I think Amy Sherman Palladino and Daniel, her husband, who co-writes it, and the team sort of knew which points they wanted to hit. You know, they knew they wanted this reveal of what happened with Joel. They knew they wanted this scene at the end of episode 5. They knew they wanted an episode where she and Susie go on tour, and they know they wanted what happens in the final episode.
You can almost see the pinboard with all these things on it, can't you? That we want to get there, but we don't get there quite yet. And I think it's not really a risk because it is, at its heart, a very light-hearted and warm show. So it's sometimes just nice to be in their company, and the rhythm of the dialogue is great as well.
I mean, I love the rhythm of the dialogue. You know, I'm a big Amy Sherman Palladino fan, and I think the other thing that works is the production design and the way it's shot. And you say about going to Paris, I wasn't a massive fan of that because I think New York is the centre of the show.
It's almost the character, it's almost important.
I think the Catskills work to an extent because that is believable that they go here every year, you know, everyone knows them. And I think when it goes a bit darker and looking at this woman whose life had been mapped out for an extent, and then to have this blow of her husband leaving her for his secretary and then coming back again. What I would say I liked about this season is you get a lot more from Alex Borstein as Susie, and you see a bit more of her life. The relationship between her and Midge in the second half of the season, and that sort of almost fracturing to an extent, you know, because they had quite, you know, she sort of discovered her and things like that, but then Midge sort of realises the reality of trying to become a comedian and things like that. Kevin Pollak and the actress who play the in-laws, they're very good. There
are lots of really well-drawn characters that just pop up. Yeah. I do think the character of Joel, who is her ex-husband is a little bit of a wet lettuce and less interesting when the story swings.
I agree with that, because they don't seem to. They sort of got she's sort of got an idea of what she wants to do with Joel, but he's half sort of taking over his dad's factory. He wants to make it run better, but he's not sure. And then he's sort of trying to buy Midge an apartment, and then trying to find himself an apartment, and ends up living in the factory. The back half of the season has a lot more plot to it. I think that all the plot is in the back half of the season. I mean, they introduced, while they're in the Catskills, a new love interest played by Zachary Levi. The final episode is quite poignantly drawn. The team here have got an idea of where they want to end this season
and where they want to
and I think
important points.
Yeah, in the fact of this could have been better as an 8 than a 10.
Because often we say TV's moved away from episodes.
This feels very episodic.
And this does feel like the one where they're in the Catskills and the
I think that is a good thing, though. I miss episodic TV to an extent.
Yeah.
If you loved Marvelous Mrs. Maisel the first time round and you're struggling a little bit, persevere, because, as I say, it does improve. That latter half has a lot of good moments in it, and as I say, it does focus back more on her as a stand-up. Rachel Brosnahan is still fantastic. I mean, all the cast are fantastic, bar, I would say, the actor who plays Joel. Again, I don't know his name off the top of my head, but everyone else in the show I really like. It looks fantastic, and the dialogue is really great, and especially her stand-up material, I think, is sort of razor sharp.
It's really, really clever. That could be really cliched and really difficult to watch, and it's always really engaging and fun. But she just takes to it effortlessly as well. She's just really good. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Watch it over Christmas.
It's good for this time of year. It's good sort of comfort viewing. I always like to watch Gilmore Girls at sort of autumn, winter time as well, because it is sort of good.
With a big jumper on.